In today's video, one of the things we're going to do is the dreaded rear tire change, as well as new chain, new rear sprocket, and then a rear lower chain guide. So we're going to do all that in this video today, kind of get this lower half complete. That way we can work on the front end, and then last but certainly not least, we can work on the upper half, which would be graphics, redoing the wiring, all that fun stuff. So we're going to get started on this rear wheel now. Now I'm not sure if this is going to have enough oomph to remove this rear nut here, but we're going to give it a shot. If that doesn't work, we can use my air gun, or we can just use the old-fashioned way. It's coming. There it is. Now you'll notice these came down. These are really nice. Allows you to set the wheel basically side to side. You got these pins here. You set this. That way you know your wheel is perfectly centered. We're going to go ahead and take it all off and remove the... So we're on this side. We're going to see if we can remove this rear wheel without a hammer, which it appears we can. It feels really loose. So there we go. Got the shaft there. And when you take your wheel off, you'll notice there are some spacers. Be sure to keep track of these. One side is typically different than the other. So on this side, the brake side, it's actually shorter on this particular bike, and the chain side is longer. That's typically how it works out, but not all the time. So be on the lookout for that. Next, we're going to remove this rear sprocket, because again, we're replacing it. We're not going to put it on until we change the rear tire. Here's the wheel. You'll notice you have 6 screws. Now I did end up purchasing new ones because I noticed right off the bat a couple of them are rounded over. Have all new of those. Those are 6mm, which is pretty typical. And then there's a nut on the other side that's 14. Good God. I'm going to take the rest of these out. Once we get those out, we'll move on to the tire. Now I'm not sure if I'm going to show that on film because I am horrible at changing tires. I hate doing it, I'm slow at it, and you're not going to learn anything except for to be frustrated. Okay, we've got all the screws out now that I have a hernia, and there's the rear sprocket. Now the rear sprocket doesn't look quite as worn as the front, but we've got a new one, so. Next we're going to change the tire, and we'll clean this up. Now while you're at it, you might as well check the bearings. They could feel pretty good on the bike, but in reality they can be bad, and these are like butter. Definitely, I don't know if they've been changed recently or they've just been well looked after. Those are perfect. That makes me happy because I did not buy bearings. Here's where we're at. We've got the new tire installed, we've got the wheel all cleaned up. I reinstalled the disc for the brake. I've got the new sprocket in place, although it is not tightened down yet. All new hardware. We're going to go ahead and tighten that down, and each of these 6 bolts get 24 foot-pounds. So we're going to get that done, and we'll move on to the next step. Now that we've got the rear wheel all ready to go, it's time to put the axle in. Before you do so, you're going to want to put some grease on there. I use quite a bit. Actually use the Yamalube right here. You can use just about anything as long as it does not break down. The Yamalube seems to be really good. I've used it for years and have never had any problems out of it. Now rear tires can be a bit of a pain to reinstall if you don't do it very often. What I like to do is insert the axle before I lift the tire up onto the rear swing arm. Go ahead and push it all the way to the other side until it stops, and then push it in just a little bit so it's not going to hit the other side. Once you do that, you can easily lift the rear wheel into place. The hardest thing is going to be lining up the disc in between the brake pads. As long as you've got them spread out enough, it should slide right in. And once you get it in place, you may have to tilt the wheel a bit, but knock the axle all the way through to the other side, like that. Now once you've got the axle all the way through, go ahead and loosely fit all of your hardware. We don't want to tighten anything up just yet because we still need to put our chain on. You just don't want the wheel to fall off at this point. Before we move on to the chain, we're going to go ahead and remove this rear chain guide because we actually have a replacement. There's just 3 screws that hold that in. We'll go ahead and remove this off camera and then we'll show you the replacement. We've loosely assembled this new rear guide. You've got a spacer block that goes in here. The tricky part, which is not really that tricky, is you've got to put the spacer in there and then the hardware goes through. So if you squeeze the spacer block in place, get it lined up just about right, it makes it a lot easier. And since we've got the whole unit loose, we can wiggle it and make sure it's square. We've got that one installed as well. And the rear one, we still use the original screw, but it comes with a nut that we put on the back side. So we've got this all buttoned up now. It's time to put the nice new shiny gold chain on. Once we've got it pulled through the front, we'll go ahead and feed it through our new rear guide block. Now if you bought the right chain, it should not need to be shortened. What I like to do is I get it all wrapped around and then I simply attach it to the rear sprocket. So we've got both halves right here. So now when we go to put our master link in, it's going to be a lot easier. We're not pulling or tugging or doing anything like that. We've got the chain in place. We need to install our master link. This one uses O-rings. So you need to put some O-rings on first. Go ahead and insert the master link. 2 more O-rings, the plate, squeeze that together. You may need a pair of pliers. I just simply do it with my hand. Lastly, we'll put on our retaining link. Now you want to put this on if you're at the top of the chain. You want the open end towards the back, the closed towards the front. If you've got it at the bottom, it would be the exact opposite. Go ahead and slide that in, and then we'll finish it with a pair of needle nose pliers. Once you have the chain installed, you can see it's nice and loose. It's now time to adjust our tension. Now the XR has these nice little cams on here. They're on both sides. We're going to go ahead and adjust that way with each side. So we're going to initially set it up on 6, and we'll follow it up with the other side, set that on 6. Still too loose, usually about 2 fingers. We'll adjust the other side to make sure we're not too tight. Now we're at 7. That feels about right. Once you've got that set, go ahead and tighten down your wheel. Last step here is to install our guard and the supporting bracket. Go ahead and put that in place. We have cleaned it all up. Be sure to spin the wheel when you're done to check for any binding, any weird noises. Now that is the bottom guide. It's the chain rubbing in there, which it should do, the bottom of it. You have no weird binding, we're good to go. I'm actually glad that I needed to replace the chain and sprockets because it gives it a whole new look in my opinion. With that rear guide being black, the red sprocket, it looks great. Now you'll notice the tires aren't that aggressive. These are Shinko 244s. It's an enduro tire. They're really cheap as far as price, but they got great reviews. I wanted something, as mentioned before, that I could drive down the street if I wanted to, and also take it on some trails with my grandson. I might do some things by myself, but it's not going to be that aggressive. Now unfortunately I had to order the rear tire twice. This is the original tire that I ordered. I had mounted it, and then I didn't like it when I put it on. It is really narrow. Now this is the proper size, which is a 100-118, but since it doesn't have the aggressive knobbies, it looked like a bicycle tire. So I ended up going more for the standard look, a wider tire, a little bit taller, but it's still smaller than the old knobby. It's a 110-118. And to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, here is the knobby, which is the proper size, and this is that original tire. See how much shorter it is, which is fine. It's also a lot thinner. And now if we compare the tires with the replacement tire to the knobby, it's a little closer. This is still a little bit wider because these knobbies are big and aggressive, but it's closer to the size. More of an aesthetic thing. Also, with a wider tire, you are going to get better traction. So keep that in mind as well. But you could also slow down the bike, which in this case should be fine. I don't need it to be fast. And it was already fast enough with the knobby, which is even taller than this tire, so I'm not losing anything there. And I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. Again, these videos are going to be rather short compared to the old videos, just because I don't have a whole lot of time to dedicate to it right now. It's already July 6th, and I think the last video was 2 weeks ago, so if that tells you anything, we just now finished the chain and the sprocket. But depending on how the days go, I could have a video up in 2 days or 2 weeks, so be on the lookout for them no matter what. The next video we will probably focus on the boots, replacing the boots, the front tire. Once we get that done, we'll go ahead and do an oil change, reinstall that skid plate. That way we'll have the bottom of the bike done. And once we get the bottom all sorted out, we'll be able to focus on the top of the bike, which would include sorting out that wiring mess, new graphics, possibly a new seat cover, new grips, and all of that. If you are interested in any of the tools that I use in the videos, be sure to check out the links below the video description. I have Amazon links to just about everything I use, from the woodworking tools to some of the shop tools. Just about everything is in there. Be sure to tag that bell, that way you know when I post a new video. And as always, thanks for watching.